Hello, gathered friends. I'm Nuva, and welcome to Bionicle Deep Dive, where we analyze the tropes, characters, and lore of LEGO Bionicle. In this video, we're going to be exploring one of the most underrated minor characters in my opinion, Botar, looking at his character, his gravitas, and the themes around him, as well as some of the rather infamously weird writing choices around his character. Let's dive right into it. Botar was a member of the Order of Mata Nui, a mysterious organization dedicated to the will of the Great Spirit. He was their gatherer of the fallen, the one who came to take those who they deemed irredeemable and teleport them to the pit, the Order of Mata Nui's prison, where they would remain for all eternity. His teleportation powers were immense, able to appear almost anywhere and disappear within microseconds. He is the one responsible for taking both the Baraki and Brutaka to the pit, as well as assisting the Order in various tasks until we hear that he is killed in battle with Makuta Icarax. Now, from a purely plot perspective, Botar was actually kind of insignificant. He showed up, moved some people some places, and then died off screen. He served the narrative by being a useful plot device, but one that easily could have been done by something else, and overall didn't have a huge impact on the course of events. However, I think that Botar added a lot, both thematically and atmospherically, to the stories he appeared in. His appearances, while few, had immense gravitas to them. Even the hype and foreshadowing around him was insane. Well before his first appearance, he was foreshadowed on the back of one of the comics, and I remember the chill and anticipation when I first saw it. It showed a picture of Axon and Brutaka, two of the Titan sets of that year, and two of the most powerful warriors introduced to the series thus far, staring up in awe at this huge, tooth-mauled Titan. The text above him read, Axon, Brutaka, who will survive the coming of Botar? He was clearly a combiner set of the two of them, adding even more gravitas to him. See, combiner models, particularly combiner models of Titan sets, often seem to have more power than their component characters. And his appearance was pretty scary by Bionicle standards. I mean, just look at those teeth! His appearance also evoked the memory of Ultimate Duma, another Titan set combiner who was incredibly terrifying and later revealed to be the true form of Makuta for that year, leaving us even more curious about what dark secrets this new figure possessed. We had no more information to go on. His motives, powers, and personality were completely unknown. But all we knew was that he was coming, and that even Axon and Brutaka, who were able to knock out all 6 Nuva in a single blow, might not survive his arrival. Now that's how you build up a character. And when he actually shows up, while his actions may have been relatively minor as far as impact on the course of events, his presence and characterization had a tremendous impact on the atmosphere of the story. He only has 2 major appearances, both back-to-back, near the end of Inferno, the last book in the Voya Nui arc, and in the prologue of City of the Lost, the first book in the Mari Nui arc of the following year. After that, he has a few brief appearances, mostly teleporting people around and things for the Order, but those 2 are the main ones that define his character. In Inferno, before he even arrives, while Axon and Brutaka are having their duel in the Paraka stronghold, Axon says, "Give up. There's no reason Botar has to be brought into this." This makes Brutaka's eyes widen and declare that Axon must be bluffing. The narration says that Brutaka knew just what mention of him could mean, implying that merely evoking his name is enough to draw his attention. That he can be summoned with just his name adds an immense sense of mystery and otherworldliness to him, and we still had no idea who he was or what he was going to do. As soon as Axon wins the battle, Botar appears out of nowhere in the room, startling him. When Axon tries to plead with Botar against sending Brutaka to the pit, Botar merely responds, "What is the law? The law is the will of Mata Nui. Break that law and only the pit will welcome you." His unshaken, almost religious devotion to his mission creates an aura of unstoppability to him, and Axon relents. He also gives the Great Spirit Mata Nui a more fearful reputation, if this is truly Mata Nui's law. It's one of the rare instances of Mata Nui being portrayed as a more fearful god than his typical passive benevolence. Botar views the world in terms of pure good and pure evil, and lives for his job, calling the punishment he deals out an art. Axon states that he will find a way to free Brutaka and return him to the light, but Botar merely laughs at the notion, as he believes those who turn to darkness will remain there forever. Botar then leaves with Butaka and takes him to the pit. It's funny because little real action but immense presence honestly describe his character both narratively and also in universe. Despite Axon and Butaka being afraid of him, it's revealed in the guidebook that he's actually not significantly more powerful than them or any other member of the Order. In fact, he never once fights in any scene he's in. Rather, he relies on his presence and intimidation to get the job done without ever actually applying force. His job was never to defeat the criminals he sends to the pit. Rather, he is the one who takes them once they've been defeated by someone else, whether by the Order or outside of the Order. He's so single-mindedly devoted to his mission that he never backs down or shows hesitation at those who might try to stop him. A sheer wall of confidence that, when mixed with his frightening appearance and mysterious powers, cause all those who consider opposing him to back down. In City of the Lost, when Botar appeared to take the Baraki after they had been captured by Makuta Pterodax, at first Pterodax protested that they were his prisoners. Botar simply smiled and told Pterodax to stand aside or share their fate, and Pterodax didn't resist. If Pterodax had decided to challenge him, Botar almost certainly would have lost. But Botar's sheer presence and confidence was enough to intimidate even Makuta Pterodax himself. In the end, his role in the events of the plot was mainly to be a mechanism to explain how people got to the pit, but the way he's presented gives so much depth to the world, even though his actions could have easily been written with something of less weight. Perhaps even more than just Botar himself, what gives Botar his sense of menace is what his arrival means. He's the one who arrives to take you to the pit, the prison of the Order of Mata Nui, where those who are judged irredeemable are sentenced to eternity in darkness and misery. It's basically the equivalent to Tartarus from Greek mythology, the deepest, darkest hole where only the worst monsters in the cosmos are banished. To some, it was considered a fate worse than death, which may have actually been the point, if you subscribe to the theory that the pit was designed specifically to hold those who couldn't be redeemed, even if they died and were resurrected on the Red Star, like a theory video I made a while back. That Botar never failed his mission in history means that if he has come for you, your fate is sealed. There are a few other scenes he appears in, mostly to transport people and objects around. One interesting moment was while Butaka was fighting Makuta in the pit. Butaka had just begun to realize how far he had fallen, and in an act of surprising heroism, summoned Botar to take the staff of Artaka from Makuta. The exchange only lasted for a second, but in that time, Botar actually nodded to his former comrade, perhaps an acknowledgement that he wasn't quite as irredeemable as he thought. It is likely that this is what prompted Helrix, the leader of the Order, to take Butaka back on probation, and that Botar is likely the one who told her of this. One kind of strange moment for his character is his idea of a joke being dropping the Tatarak, an enormous kaiju-sized Rahi beast, into the heart of Zia, a heavily populated island. I wonder if it was a shared joke between him and Butaka, who thousands of years ago dropped that very same Tatarak into the heart of Metru Nui for fun. On the one hand, it's strange for such a morally black and white character to do something that could legitimately be seen as grounds for him to be sent to the pit himself, given the destruction and potential death his action may have caused. On the other hand, it also shows him as this deeply unnerving character with a twisted sense of humor despite his rigid sense of duty. Honestly, what I liked most about Botar was how much he felt like a folkloric boogeyman and added to the myth-like atmosphere of the Bionicle story. He was this huge, terrifying, sharp-toothed figure who comes out of nowhere at the mere mention of his name to drag those who have committed evil to a hell-like place for all eternity. He gains a cosmic significance as a judge and taker of the damned. It's a significance he himself seems to embrace, stating that, where there are wrongs, he has rights. A simple yet chilling and awe-inspiring line that only adds to his immense presence. I was kind of bummed out when it was revealed that he died, especially since we never saw it, we just heard about it off-screen when he died fighting Icarax. He had legitimately become one of my favorite minor characters, just with how much atmosphere he contributed to every scene he was in. But then, later in that same arc where he died, would be the most infamously weird decision surrounding his character, Botar's replacement. A character of his same species, with the same powers, who the Order of Mata Nui quickly recruited to fill his shoes. Now, What most likely happened was Greg Farsi really wanted to kill off a character in order to show how the stakes had been raised during the war against the Brotherhood, and Botor was a powerful, established character who was not a member of the main cast anymore, and so didn't have plot armor. A perfect candidate. But then Greg realized that Botor was also an extremely useful plot device that he just killed off, and that he needed to find another way to get the characters he wanted to the places they needed to be. Hence, Botor's replacement. The problem is, while Botor had a little bit of character and a lot of presence, his replacement literally had none of those things. Botor's replacement literally has no lines of dialogue, and the only thing he does is transport things around. He had none of the gravitas and presence that Botor had. That's why I and many fans really feel like it was a bit of a bad writing choice to kill off Botor and just replace him again. While Botor himself really only contributed to the plot as a teleportation device, he still had an immense presence to him, and contributed to the atmosphere of the world. A mysterious, dangerous, and myth-like atmosphere that was always one of Bionicle's biggest strengths as a story. It's for that reason that several fanfiction have actually depicted the original Botor coming back. See, with the reveal years later that the Red Star functioned as a resurrection mechanic, the Matoran universe's afterlife now becomes a real physical place in the universe that can be reached. So some fans have him simply teleport back to life after he died, which is kind of hilarious. But those are my thoughts on the immense atmospheric presence of Botor, and the strangeness around his death and replacement. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me that Botor added a lot to the story just with his gravitas, despite having little plot action? Or do you have other thoughts on his character? And what do you think about the handling of his death and replacement? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care, my gathered friends.